Do. Bible time with Baby Bam Bam Bumkin. This is my brand new episode of Bible Time with Baby Bam Bam Bumkin. Bible Time is a series of episodes where we look into probably what I could consider the most evil book in the world, in the universe, the Bible. It hasn't quite sold as many copies of some of the Beatles albums, but it is a really big selling book. In this episode, we're going to highlight the New Testament. The reason for being is that my past episodes have been about the Old Testament, and it shows how bloodthirsty and deranged that the Old Testament God, Yahweh, is to his people, the Israelites. And he's a bloodthirsty God and demands sacrifices, and we've looked into some really interesting things that if people really practice the Bible as it says to, that there would be a lot of people running around without hands and without feet, and they cut their hands and feet off for things like not practicing the Sabbath. But the argument is, and I've heard this come up recently by some evil evangelicals who supposedly are fundamentalist Christians and believe the Bible literally. That's why Fred Phelps is probably the most honest of the evangelical groups, and it is true that he practices what it says in the Bible. But there's a lot of evil evangelicals that say things like, well, the Old Testament says all those really bloody, deranged things because that was a specific laws that were given to the Jewish people and to the Israelites of the time, and it was for them of their time. Those are the old laws, and they don't pertain to us now, which in no way explains why the Ten Commandments, which are supposedly the old laws given to the Israelites, are displayed here in the United States. They're displayed in public parks, in schoolhouses, public schools, and it's also displayed in different courthouses, courts of law, display the Ten Commandments. Then what are they talking about? Those are old laws for the Jews. Come on, practice what it says in the Bible. You should be killing homosexuals like Fred Phelps wants. I'm just saying, if you're really gonna be true to your faith, the Ten Commandments that they display aren't even the real true commandments. If you really turn to the place in the Bible where the supposed Ten Commandments are, they're not in order like that. That's a modern configuration. If you were to read the real Ten Commandments, the 10th commandment in the Ten Commandments is that thou shalt not seethe a kid in his mother's milk. Do you know what that means? Thou shalt not seethe a kid in his mother's milk. That means do not take a baby goat away from its mother while it's breastfeeding, okay? Now that's a really important commandment, and everybody should be practicing it. That's one of the true 10 commandments. These things are listed. You can look this up in your Bible. In Exodus chapter 34, verses 13 through 28 is where the true 10 commandments are. And those things in there, such as that thou shalt not mix a blood offering with leaven, the stuff that you use to make bread wise, is crazy, okay? Practice the real 10 Commandments. Why don't we post that in all the courthouses and in front of all the public schools? So the reason I was bringing this up is these evil evangelicals use the argument that the Old Testament is the Old Testament, and we don't practice the Old Testament. What we really believe is the New Testament. So let's look at some of the New Testament things. People think that Jesus Christ of the New Testament, which is not a historical person, he is actually a fictitious character that has been invented. That's why the different stories about him in the Bible contradict themselves. Mark, Peter, and Luke, and all those books, they contradict themselves. The stories don't even match. If you want to talk about family values, Jesus Christ's family values are pretty extreme. People think he taught love one another and all that stuff, but really, his family values were thus. This is what they are. Look this up in Luke chapter 14, verse 26. Whoever comes to me and does not hate his father and mother, and his wife and his children, and his brothers and sisters, even himself, you have to hate yourself, you have to hate all your brothers and sisters and all of your family in order to be a disciple of Jesus. In order to be Jesus Christ's disciple, you have to hate all of your family and your parents. You have to despise them. This is also found in Matthew chapter 10, 35 through 36, as well as Luke 12, chapter 12, verse 52, 53. He says that he comes to set man against his father, and daughters against their mothers, and daughter-in-laws against their mother-in-laws, and one's foe will be the members of one's own household. He wants everybody in the families to be fighting and bickering. That's what Jesus taught. Those are Jesus' family values. I'm not lying. You guys look this up, okay? Get in your Bible and read this stuff. I'm giving you the verses and the chapters in the books, so check it out. He took his disciples, he took his followers, and made them his family. He despised his mother. You know the Virgin Mother Mary that some Christians put... she is really truly a goddess, but the Christians have turned her into just kind of a minor figure in the Bible. Jesus taught that he hated her. He didn't even love her. She was outside one time. You can look this up in Matthew chapter 12, as well as Luke chapter 8. Well, she was outside of a meeting that he was having with all of the crowds, and the crowds are like, "Look, your mother and your brother are standing outside waiting to speak to you." And do you know what Jesus said, what his response was? He says, "Who is my mother? And who are my brothers?" And then he points to all of his disciples and he says, "Here are my mother and my brothers." He said, "Rebel against the traditions of your parents." That goes against the 10 Commandments. So why are they still displaying the 10 Commandments if they claim that they're Christians? They should be going against it. There should be chaos in the home and discord. That's all I'm saying. If you love your mom or your sons or your daughters, or you love your father or your mother more than Jesus Christ, then you're not worthy to be with him. You're not worthy to be with him. Look it up, Matthew 10:37. This guy is definitely Yahweh incarnated. He is the demiurge of Yahweh manifested upon the earth. The metaphors are there. Look it up in your very scriptures. The same stories and metaphors between Yahweh and Jesus and Mother Mary and Sophia, who is wisdom, the goddess, the female Christ. The metaphors are there in the Nag Hammadi library, the Nag Hammadi. Well, Sophia is standing there watching Yahweh, or Yahweh Dash, or whatever his name is. He's going off, as usual. "I am the one and only. There are no others before me. I am the beginning and the end, the Alpha and the Omega." And he's boasting, as usual, like that. And Sophia appeals, and she addresses him, and she says, "Samal," which Samal means the blind one. And she calls him Samal. And says, "Samal, what are you talking about? If you are the one and only, and there's no others before you, then how come I am here? How come I exist? For I possess you. I gave birth to you. I am the one that brought you into the universe." And Samal, in his blindness, continues to be blind and turns his back from his mother, and turns away from his eternal mother. That is reflected in these Christian groups. They turn away from the goddess. They turn away and ignore their mother. I think it's really sad. We of the LOA love our Heavenly Mother. She is the most sacred of the most sacred. And we love her above all else. So I'm just saying, if you want to worship a book like the Bible, please leave me out of it and leave politics out of it, and please leave it out. The war's got that the U.S. government has going on right now is a religious war. It's a modern religious war, equivalent to the Templars versus the Pasana Saba assassins. Just be well. Please be well.